So before I start reading tonight, I would like to extend a few thank yous and a few welcomes, if you will. Just to welcome in particular, but that's a different story. So I would like to, first of all, thank our wonderful program director, Vanessa. Vanessa, you bring so much more than coffee to this experience. You have just been a phenomenal inspiration and also a undying source of support, so thank you. Also would like to thank my other mentees or mentorees. Pick which one you are out of that list, but I would like to thank you for your continued friendship and all the support that you have provided along the way, so thank you. And I would also like to thank our mentors. Mary Rockcastle's in the audience with us tonight, and also Chris. Been wonderful so far. Tomorrow will probably be much of the same as well. Not with us tonight, we also had Peter Campion, Mark Anthony Rollo, Gerald Walker, and of course the wonderful Kathy Park Hong. So thank you, mentors, here and otherwise. So I would like to just start by saying that I am very honored tonight to be reading with Cole and Chris, who are bringing us some prose tonight. I actually started writing poetry through prose, so I feel very comfortable with that format. So for tonight's reading, I've actually selected some of my poems which specifically are more narrative and character-driven for you. So I'm going to start, if that's okay with all of you. If it's not, strap in, we're going for it. All right. So this first poem is about a character called the Sailor's Girl, and that is the title of the poem. She wants you to know she's quit cigarettes, and she's cut her hair so short it can't be tied back when she washes her face at night. She wants you to know the neighbors bicker about the clammy weather, but she celebrates the spring rain by dancing in your garden, her palms turned toward the sky. She spends a lot of time thinking about the things she wants you to know. She does not read the books you send. She stacks them one on top of another and lets their covers gray with dust. She started drinking in the afternoons with the old man who lives down the road. They play cards and smoke cigars, and he tells her about the daughter he lost in the war. After a bottle of wine, he puts his hand on her thigh and says he should be going home. As she watches the sun sink from your back door, she counts the days until you come back to port and hopes you never know how happy she is when you're away. This next poem is about a character called the Doomsday Heart, and so that is the name of this poem. I'm just going to take a drink of water, everybody. Give me 1 second, I got a dry throat. All right. The Doomsday Heart. On our grandfather's acreage north of Ames, you planted your doomsday heart in the soil long enough to grow an albatross, winged and perfect like the terrible angels who neglect your bedroom window. You laid naked, face down in the fields, chest pounding against the dirt, hands trembling as the yellow manure clouds rolled in with the afternoon. And we didn't know how to introduce you to our dinner guests. Your fingernails were overgrown, your hair was tangled with bramble. You said the well was poisoned. You said everything tasted like dust. You said cities on the horizons had been burning for days, that the rain clouds held particulates and human remains. At sunset, you sat on the porch, laughing at the windmills for spinning their arms. You refused ice cream sundaes. You rejected invitations to the drive-in, claiming our thinning hair, our bleeding bellies, and our graying lips were no proper companions for the world still living in your memories. So, for my next poem, There's just one slight piece of information that I'd like to give to you in case you're not aware of who Ernest Shackleton is. I don't know, raise of hands, anyone not familiar? Wow, good job, everyone. It's a whole thing on PBS, it's very educational. So, as you all may know then, when Shackleton and his crew were rescued from the Antarctic, he actually had claimed that there was this omniscient third man that had followed them and guided them to safety. So this poem is about that character. I am Shackleton's third man, in a prom dress and garbadine coat, sun in my black nose on the starboard. All the while that Weddell ice creaks closer, squeaking, then lifting us from the water. At night, while the crewmen kiss their fading photographs, I chew on strips of leather and keep watch of the ice shelves on the horizon. I have designs on landfall and making snow angels, once this ship finally freezes and sinks unimpressively. So, little bit of information for the next poem. All you really do need to know is that the term happy vaporization is actually a scientific term used by nuclear physicists, which describes the act of being immediately incinerated in a nuclear explosion. All right. This poem is called We Silly Proletariat. Caterpillars chew the ivy to a delicate lace, browned and unrecognizable under August's sun, and tree spiders spit their webs into summer's humid sigh. Silky tendrils coat the sidewalks, coat the wooden door frames already swollen from heat exposure like grapes bursting from the vine. We only pay notice to the electrical storm steeping along the western horizon. Bored at the block party, we leave together, driving out of the city through back roads. Knees to chest, I sit in your passenger seat, growling along to O Comely. We park at the top of a bluff overlooking the nuclear power plant. Heat lightning sullies the sky, purple and quick. Flashes of a summer we only knew from inside weak hours, with our backs to the sky and our hands to wheels which turn and churn. We silly proletariat know nothing of happy vaporization. I am crying, and you place one hand on my knee and the other on my soft belly. I inch away and mutter, it's not that kind of crying. All right, so what I would like to do, so that follows the first series of poems I wanted to read for you that are more character and narrative driven, so thank you for listening. I also have a second set of poems which I would like to read because they are some new work that I have been taking on since enrolling or being able to participate in the Mentor Series. I actually have started writing a manuscript of poems which is actually driven by 4 different characters living in a world that is undergoing a mass extinction. So the idea of the book is actually that each character will tell a different story and a different part of this quickly escalating cataclysmic event. Don't worry, I brought the happy poems tonight. Maybe? But also these poems can serve to work as separate pieces. They are a smaller portion of a mosaic that you can read and experience just as well on their own. So I'm going to read some of those for you tonight. The first character I would like to introduce is goes by the title of The Consultant. This particular poem is called The Lullaby of Escrow. You want to paint the story of escrow on the front lobby walls between your morning cigarette and your afternoon meeting with Venus Extravaganza. And you want to spend dinner in your rented bed, clipping out magazine photos of smiling brides, puppy dogs, designer faucets, and the burned out Capitol. But There are talking points, stuttering and bulleted in table text format. The Baron needs his mustache stroked. The cosmonaut needs his dinner freeze-dried. And there are lost boys leaping cheerfully from their windows because they refuse to let the fog and hot ash steep into their lungs and pull them through the muck. The next set of characters I'd like to introduce, and that's it for the consultant, really. Just one poem for y'all. The second set of characters I'd like to introduce is called The Lovers. I will read you a series of poems from their story, and the first one is called Boy Genius. Tomorrow, me and Nero are going to raise an army to build a monument in honor of your forearms and your wrists. So lovely, the arches that rise at your elbow, giving way to delicate bone and sweaty palms. The tanks are rolling in, my love, shaking the window panes, and you still mutter uselessness as you sleep and shield your eyes from the rising sun. This one is called Our Final Saturday Afternoon. Baby, there are hills on top of the hills we will never understand. Our calves, knotted from the climb, tangle with the prairie grass, bleached blonde for the season. Winter is embedded in the sky, and nothing but days of milky white November lie between us and the whispers spinning unwhispered in our bellies. We think soldiers pray for peace. Airplanes never fall from grace, and the first snow will melt deliciously on our flushed cheeks, a tingling sting to remind us of our stupid decision to live on the North Plains. This one is titled For Anton Alexei. Since you've been gone, me and my guardian angel have been steadily drifting apart. Every morning, she perches at the foot of my bed and burns holes in the mattress with the Egyptian cigarettes you left in my freezer. When she plays your Kinks records, she refuses to dance with me. Instead, she mutters curses in broken Russian and waits to hear your footfalls outside the front door. And this is the last poem from The Lovers that I will read to you. It's a little experimental. It's a prose poem, and it's called The Memo Flags. So the Memo Flags is actually a concept I got from a sci-fi writer, China Miéville. And the thought of the Memo Flags is that sometimes memories are so strong they create their own guardian to protect them, and that is what they call the guardians. They're called Memo Flags. So, the great movement that seemed unmoving is already dead upon our tongues. The day after they took you away, the rats fled the city. Furry, dusty rodents scurried from overstocked pantries, fled from under well-polished floorboards, and poured into the smooth cobblestone streets. They scampered fast and far, swarming over the posh, pampered lawns in the governor's district. The shrieks of fine-mannered ladies echoed long after rat pips or peeps could be heard. Then the music disappeared. Record players throughout the city spun slick vinyl round and round, only to emit a faint fizz, the sound of a broken teapot. When choruses of school children sang, they made no sound at all. And in the park pavilion, the officers' marching band flailed about with their instruments, the soundless vibrations rattling their songless tongues. Soon after came the all-day dark, and with it, the night barons riding their tanks through the city, their turrets steaming after each cannon shot. Houses shook, cinder fell, the things that crept in after the tanks ate the dead. I took to the attic long after the roof caved in. I counted the stars until they turned to ash and fell out of the sky, covering my eyelashes. I read your letters over and over until they took their own form, a twisted, water-stained golem towering above my head. It nudged me awake when the vultures came. It hid my lantern from the shadow squads and their knives. In the red, murky, burning mists, it shielded my eyes with its hands. Darling, these words will never reach you, but I've burned them into my lungs, and I will hold in my last breath until my final dark arrives, and I can remember only your name. So, one of my other characters I'm working on for this manuscript is actually titled The Space Captain. Right? I know, right? Why not? So the idea of the space captain, of course, is hope. And this will be the last poem I read for you tonight. So before I finish and leave the stage, I just want to thank you all once again for listening. This poem is called Light This Candle. This is what you have left of home: your spacesuit, your lunch pail, and the envelope of soil they gave you. They who watched awelessly as your booster jets smudged the sky. One last liftoff before they move the cities underground. Your engines are growing cold now, so breathe smallly. The space you have left cannot sustain you in its endless expansion. Breathe smallly and hum the songs your sisters sang when they braided dandelions into your hair. Their voices as bright as the blasts that sear their shadows on the sidewalk. Hum, and then recite the hot particles, the poisoner's daughter stealing marrow from the bone. Strontium, cesium, uranium, plutonium, iodine. Swallow their names with powdered milk and let the rocking of your ship lull you. Let your days spent at the matinee and your picnics by the river guide you toward an undying new void.